Hello again for this last part of our episode 4 of our DUO21 2021. I'm today together with Aurélien Knapp, who is a senior application consultant at DALIM. Hello, Aurélien.
Hello.
And I'm Isabelle Bidré-Rayel. I'm the Business Development Director for Europe. I'm very glad to be with you today. So we're going to talk about packaging and marketing, winning duo. So we've been hearing a lot today from our friend from Decathlon, from Uwe, and also from Zin about sustainable packaging and the way it's producing more. They are producing more and more packaging, and this was one point Mario was highlighting. Actually, one very important thing is that 70% of the consumer, when they are in the shop, they are really impacted by the design of the packaging, and they just make up their mind at the very last moment if they really like the packaging. So it's something which is very important in the consumer decision. Another interesting point is that today, and this is also more important, 40% of the consumer they are ready to communicate and to send pictures about the product if they like the packaging, if they really entertain with the product and with its packaging. So it's a very important point because this helps actually to communicate a lot, to broadcast information about the product, and to get also, of course, more success when selling packaging. But what is actually the packaging for? So if we start from the very beginning, the packaging, as Uwe was outlining, is really to protect the goods and to make sure that it will arrive in the end of the consumer in good shape. It's also a superb marketing tool because it's enabling to attract people and to get them buying the solution because it's a brand new packaging, because it's very nice. This is also a source of a lot of information. Could be about the ingredient, could be about the way to use the product, could be some other information, entertainment information. We see more and more, for example, QR code or games on the bottle of milk for kids to play with it. And of course, next time they will have to get this milk. And the last point, this is also a very nice way to differentiate the product, to differentiate, to be compliant with the green environment, and also to get a fancy packaging which is sparkling into the stores. So, but when we talk about packaging and how we create a package, it's a lot of complexity underneath. Actually, when we start a new product, so the first thing which is coming up, this is to get a brief describing the product and the intent the brand would like to get for this packaging. Most of the time, they are addressing it with an agency, can be internal agency or external agency. And there will be exchanging about the kind of product and packaging they would like to get, and they will get a lot of approval cycle until the moment it's ready and everybody can review it. And if you have some variant for this packaging, for example, if you do some chips and you have different flavors, then probably you're going to get the different flavors, and also you want also to adapt this packaging for the local market. So we see this is a lot of complexity. I have one question for you, Aurélien. When we talk about this complexity, I know that you are very often at customer site working on projects. So how does it start with you? What is the first step?
The first step when we arrive into the customer, the first thing to do is to make an audit of the current process with key people. For example, the project manager, the brand marketing, and the creative people. We elaborate together a business process mapping. This is the very first step to standardize and industrialize the process. Most of the time, we have two kinds of workflows: a brand new packaging, where everything has to redesign. And the second one is an edition of an existing packaging. So now we have our workflow mapped on paper, and we have to convert it into a dynamic workflow. It's important to have a tool to edit the workflow. So we also have to adapt it to the different products and environment, local versus international. So the workflow includes different kinds of milestones, parallel or serial tasks. As we already seen before, the brief, design and approval cycles, but also some tasks for promoting the products. At the end of the packaging production, we can send a hero image of the product for the e-commerce site. There is a different kind of milestone, some to inform people their actions are required, and some to automate tasks like archiving all the generated content. And of course, All these milestones have different deadlines.
So if I understand well, so you are mapping the process, you're making the workflow, and of course, you have also to associate to this workflow some people. So there's different kind of project stakeholders. And I know, for example, that when we talk about brands and especially about packaging approval, they just tell us it's a very complex workflow with a lot of spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, and a lot of information flowing per email, and it's totally unstructured. So is there a solution for that to streamline the communication between the different project stakeholders?
Yes, there is. Actually, the challenge is to have one solution centralizing all the information and making sure that you are following the right process, informing the different projects, stakeholders, when their actions are required. People can be internal or external, with different access and rights and views. So different dashboards with to-do lists for participants and global planning for people in charge of the project.
Okay, so you have the process, you have the people. What is the first step you get when you start a project?
So when we start a project, it always starts with a job ticket. You have to fill it. This is where all the information related to the project are gathered. So the SKU references, for example, the project deadline, the different countries where the products are distributed, and the languages it should include. Some marketing information, which are most of the time described into a brief. It can be delivered directly into the job ticket as, for example, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or images. Of course, technical information like the printing process, the ink separation with the different Pantone colors on the die cut. It also lists the different deliverables to produce. So the packaging artwork, the label, the 3D, images for e-commerce, notice, video for social media communication. And of course, the different project stakeholders and their roles. And this information can be entered manually, but also directly flowing from an ERP or MIS system.
Yeah, it's making a lot of sense to get this information flowing from other systems, because this is quite complex what you were describing. But when you create a packaging, actually, brands, they already have some brand guidelines. They have also some logos and pictures they would like to reuse, like we heard just before, the recycling picture, for example. How does it work? Is there a way you can centralize it and get everybody not re-entering them every time?
Yes, as we said it before, all is centralized, so we have all the content related to packaging are centralized into the product DAM. So you can have your brand guidelines, the picto library, and of course all the previous packaging artworks that have been produced. With the search features on taxonomy or metadata like product SKU, you are able to find the right assets, create a collection with all necessary files, picto, logos, or brand guide, and associate them to your job.
So I imagine it helps to save a lot of time actually to locate the different files you need and not to search them every time. So now one more point. So let's come back to the project stakeholders. So there's different kinds. So we've told that there's different people, but could you please talk to us a little bit more about the different roles of people involved into the process?
Of course. This is a very important subject. Actually, you have different kind of people joining the project. So the project manager, who have a full transparency of what is happening. He is in the project, is the project gatekeeper. So he dispatches the different tasks and invites people to join the project. He manages the different resources, internal or external. And he can, at any moment, add new people in the project. For example, if he needs additional advice about the design impact, he can add the participation of someone. There is also other participants, which are only required at some points of the project, like legal people or translation specialists or designers. Those approvers have different approval rights. Some can stop the project and some others can just give their advice. It will not stop the project. For example, marketing manager can ask the advice of the local marketing. If some people are not happy, they can comment, but the decision will be relying on the marketing director. So if a digital signature is mandatory, for example, for the FDA or European law compliance, we have the possibility to do it easily.
Okay, so I get it. So you have the workflow, you have the people, you have assigned a different role to the different project stakeholders, and of course you have defined all the goods you need for this project, so packaging and hero images and so on. So next is what's happening next. So you have design. How is that working with the approval cycle?
So with the approval cycle, when the project participant receives an invitation to review an artwork, he can simply open the file using a standard web browser, zoom on the content, inspect the different informations he wants to check, for example, as the different layers. To facilitate the review, he can rotate the artwork, put notes on it, and in case of text change request, he can select the text and specify in the note what has to be modified. All notes and comments are gathered. So you can get different colors depending on the role of the person. It's possible to check technical information such as color operation, ink opacity, or even ink coverage. We can also imagine reordering the channel.
So I can imagine how it can streamline the communication between the different people, because here you have just one web browser, just go to your job and then you review it. So depending, if I understand well, on your role, you may have different action you want to do. So some will just put some notes, some other maybe who are more involved in printing process will check transparencies and those kind of things. So more technical information, am I correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, good. So on the next step you have your design, you have made the annotation, and of course you have a brilliant agency which is very fast, and they have already delivered to you revision. So how do you deal with this? Because you have two jobs, two artworks. How does it work? How can you manage it?
So actually the system automatically manages revisions. It clearly indicates the number of revisions. So with a simple click on the artwork, you have access to them. Then you have different comparison modes. You can check if all modifications have been done. The analyze mode to highlight the differences, the side-by-side mode, or by the layer mode, where you can see the actual state of the previous version before modification.
So that one is very good, because I'm not very good at the 7 errors, when you are comparing two pictures. I can see here, I'm probably going to win every time if I'm using it next time. So what's happening? So here we are on 2D, but what's happening regarding 3D? Is it also possible for 3D?
It's exactly the same in 3D. You can do the same thing that you do in 2D, you can do it in 3D.
So this means you get the 3D model, and that's very cool, because the 3D model gives you a very reliable impression of the way the product will look like. And then you can compare the different versions and see if modifications have been brought. That's correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, that's very, very powerful. We've went through how managing complexity, how it's easy to streamline the approval workflow. So the next question I have, can you do any automation? Is there automation that pop up to your mind when we talk about automation for packaging workflow?
The first thing I have in mind when you speak about automation is the notification automatic. In fact, you do not need to have an access into the system. I mean, your name is registered into ES, just because you have been included to an approval cycle. When your action is required, an email is automatically sent, and just by clicking on the link, you can review the documents. So no password, no login, very simple. You can even use your favorite device as an iPad or phone. There is also automatic reminders to people when the deadline is approaching and they have not yet reviewed the documents.
So great. So this means that you can invite anybody, almost everybody, to join from anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very powerful. I see how it can be used. And what's about some other kind of automation? Very often I was introducing at the very beginning the production where you have a master template, very often for package, and then you want to get the different variants. Is there a way to automate it? Because most of the time, you make the master template and then everything is done manually. You have to put the text manually, you have to put the logos, if you have different logos to put in because it's dangerous on one flavor or not on the other one, maybe you have to do things. Is it possible to automate that kind of process?
Yes, of course. In ES, we include the REST API that enable to connect with other systems and retrieve information that can automatically be populated to the master template. So then we can also create the variant. So as you can review the master artwork with ES Dialog, you can review the variants. So you can have 16 variants on the screen simultaneously. We have a synchronization mode to check the different parts of the artwork. For example, the logo, the barcode, or the picto. So we have a brand new feature to duplicate notes automatically to the different documents. It permits you to save a lot of time and make sure that it will be automatically copied on the other variant. So now that I have described how to search, manage artworks, and the workflow, Isabelle, I have a question for you. Can you explain us, in some words, how to make a quick new campaign?
Are you challenging me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that the packaging actually it's much more for a product. You have a lot of information, you have a lot of content, so you can get point of sale like what we have here. You have labels, you may have packaging and so on. And if I understand well, with what you were describing us today, you are able to get everything into a centralized database. And you will be able to search for all the different content when they have been published or approved. And then you can make a selection, download them, reuse them for your campaign, maybe to share on social media. Or if you want to get a partner, an agency to create for you advertising or flyers, and you can do the same. Am I correct?
You are.
Thanks, I'm good, I think so. Okay, so it's my turn now to challenge you because I think there's one thing which is very important in business. This is traceability and KPI. You know, you want to optimize a process. You want to make sure that you have everything under control. So what can you propose us?
So you have to know that inside the system, it's possible to define different dashboards for different people. So we can have to-do lists, Gantt views, and also Kanban view. And then we also log everything happening inside the system as approval cycle, comments, who did them, the documents, the type, and the revision. So with all this information, we can construct KPI views that can be shared with other customers or units.
So I think we are just reaching the end of this webinar, and thank you, Aurélien, for sharing with you your trick to get a winning duo with packaging and marketing. So Bertine, do we have any question? We still have a little bit of time, so if you have questions, I'm sure Aurélien is ready to answer.
To my disappointment, because after IT helped me to get some more screen time here with this screen wall, I don't see any questions for you guys. So you explained it very well. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us today, for joining the session. So let's meet again into the lobby in the different meeting room. Bye-bye.
Yes, so just as Isabelle said, yeah, I'm looking forward to see you on the tables and network with you guys. And of course, I would like to remind you that next week we have our 5th episode. This time, you know, we're leaving the packaging business. We move into printing and publishing again. And we have some very exciting guests again. So this time we move across the Atlantic to Brazil and into the US. We finally get to meet Ed Sepanik, the guy you saw before on our marketing advisory board from Continental Web. And we also have a speaker, Robert Finikowski from A360 Media from New York City with us. So I'm looking forward to see you in a week from now, same time, same place. And looking forward to see you in a few seconds on the table. So have a good evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.